Got milk?
That man and his merch.
Hello and welcome to That Man. That is me merchandise, and today we are talking about Monster Musume Volume 14. If you do like this kind of stuff, please leave a like, please consider subscribing and get excited because, yeah, this one, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So, Monster Musume is a series that I have absolutely adored for some time. I watched it a few years ago. I was always kind of put off by it because I was just like, oh well, it's the most hentai of all of the series, and I was just like, no. And then I watched it and I was just like, yeah, it's not something I can just put on. It's not something I can just enjoy and watch. And then I was just like, but then a few things made me laugh, and I started laughing at it, and I was just like, you know what? This is a lot of fun. And there was a lot of great stuff that was heartwarming about it. We had Mia, who is a snake girl, Lamia. We have Rachneria, the arachnid. We have Sue, the slime. We have Pappy, the harpy. We have Centauria, the centaur. We have Meryl, the mermaid. And all of these female characters were over the top. They were ridiculous, but they all had a heart of gold. And stuff that the series brought towards us was stuff like things that you wouldn't expect from a traditional harem. We had racism, we had the whole of the kind of segregation of between being a normal person and a monster girl, and we had this whole kind of weird setup where it was kind of just like, well, monster girls are coming to the country as visitors, but if anything goes wrong, you take them on. And it's kind of like, it draws parallels to a lot of race issues that we still hold in our countries. And even to this day, we find that people can be minding their own business and they can potentially be blamed for something that they didn't do. While you, the viewer, are just kind of like, oh, the monster girls with big tits. We also kind of pick up stuff like, there's, for example, there's stuff like, it's like, oh, there's a robbery, and it's like, well, it's obviously the monsters. They're here. They're strangers in our town. Not local. Identities unknown. Should we kill them, Edward? No, Tobbs, we cannot kill them. Who would find the bodies? Don't know why I kind of randomly came into a League of Gentlemen thing while talking about Monster Musume, but local people must stay in their local places. There's nothing for you here. Yeah. And Monster Musume kind of pointed out all of those things while having a nice, eye-catching premise. Until Volume 14. This is where Monster Musume kind of falls off the rails, should we say. This is where we kind of go back a bit. So, Monster Musume in the past has had some really heartwarming stories, and spoiler alert, we've had ones where, for example, we've seen monsters try to fit into the world, we've had them try to find jobs, try to find them have their own places, fight each other in giant kaiju battles. But we've also had some really down-to-earth stuff, for example, where there's a poorly girl who's not going to make it through the night, and Lala, the deaf Dullahal, deaf as in Scythe, not deaf as in deaf, the Dullahal ultimately zombifies her so she can stay alive. And it's a really nice heartwarming one, and it goes from being an ecchi series to a genuine nice slice of life story. We had stuff where Mia just turns up on the whole premises. Like, Mia's just kind of just like, oh, well, she doesn't know where to go, and the main character doesn't have the heart to turn her away. He's just like, okay, come in. He's genuinely nice to a fault, and that is taken advantage of when the evil corporation white guy, who may or may not be evil, I don't kind of understand what he actually is and brings to it. He's just like, well, you can sell your spider silk and we can lay your eggs and we can sell them all for cash. Yeah, we'll make money out of them monster girls. If it doesn't kill us, we'll make a profit. But yeah, he ends up going to this farm. Now the farm was something that was brought up a few volumes ago, and as a random episode we kind of had the girls going to different areas and kind of expanding the lore of the monster universe with different jobs they can do. For example, Snow Girl ends up running a ski resort, and the mermaids are kind of all these rich princes and princesses, but the minotaurs and the satyrs and the sheep all end up kind of running a farm, and they all have big boobs and they all end up getting milked. And that is basically the plot for volume 14. The main character goes and just milks a load of minotaurs. Because of course. So as you can imagine, there is a lot of milking scenes that you don't see outside of a hentai. At least not very often. And yeah, if you purely onto that whole hentai kind of route, you will enjoy this. You'll still have a lot of fun. But if you kind of got into Monster Musume and you were attracted by the ecchi, but you also liked a lot of other heartwarming, important things that was brought on with it, you're going to feel like this is a little bit lacking. In fact, the main characters barely even appear outside of a few cameos, except for the main Kai, who, let's face it, he's nobody's best girl. And it's one of the things that kind of made me sad when I was reading it. I heard a lot of issues about this one, but when I read it I kind of was like, oh well, it's Monster Musume, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I read it. It took me a while to even read it. I heard that many bad things and I was just like, yeah, it was okay. In fact, even on the back we even see Mia looking really darn nice, but this doesn't even appear. Why? So effectively the story is the main guy goes, he milks the minotaurs, they all fall in love with him because they like the hands-on approach, they don't like the machines, and then the sheep kind of join in because he's really delicate and how he does it, and the goats just, or the satyrs, just like, oh well, we don't care. And then it all gets really Yuri by the way the satyrs are just like, teach us how to milk the girls, and then they're just like, ha, we run the farm now because we know how to milk the minotaurs and shear the sheep and how to do all of this, that and that makes them really attentive. And I was just like, okay, fine. If this was one or two chapters, I probably would have gotten away with it a little bit more. Instead, it was just this ridiculous long arc that just kept going, and a lot of the stuff kind of didn't really hit off with me completely. I prefer the emotional story. I kind of like the stories where it made you think and made you feel, oh, well, these characters are kind of like, but this was kind of just like, yeah, milk some big giant boobies and, well, that's most of the volume done. And I was kind of like, oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah, could have done with a little bit more, but I suppose that's all I'm getting. So, yeah, this is kind of it for me. I would say I love Monster Musume, but this was a huge disappointment. I'm still going to pick up volume 15, but even then I'm finding that it's supposedly not particularly great compared to the early stuff. The early stuff was, in my opinion, set Monster Musume away from other series and made it more special somehow. This is just kind of just like, I've run out of ideas, let's go out to the farm, milk some giant boobs. Have fun! And that's it from me. What did you think of Monster Musume Volume 14, and is it as good as the earlier volumes? Let me know in the comments, and if you did like this, please consider leaving a like, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for coming, and thanks again for staying. Goodbye.